You are listening to the Unsoberly Sober Show. I'm your host, Magnify Maggie. This podcast will turn your perception of going sober upside down. We're going to be working from the inside out to get you that dream life. So make sure you stick around for the end of the episode where I'm going to walk you through our weekly positive pursuit exercise to begin rewiring that beautiful mind, baby. Welcome back, my free and powerful friends. This is the Unsoberly Sober Show. I'm your host, Magnify Maggie, aka Maggie Jensen. My real name, I guess it'd be swapped. I'm Maggie Jensen, aka Magnify Maggie. I'm so excited to rejoin you today and kind of recap a little bit of what you learned from the thought audit exercise week 1 and moving into those self-analyses week 2. And now we are entering the 3rd episode and we're going to be digging deep into some perspectives on the word sober in general. We're going to be digging into your perspective of yourself and how you could see yourself living a free, powerful, healthy life. So I've actually already been getting a lot of questions, friends, family members, followers on IG. What does unsoberly sober mean? In fact, I've gotten a few outraged messages even. How could you call something unsoberly sober? And I'll be honest, I was intentional with that name because I myself do not see the strict definition of sobriety in my life. In fact, I didn't want that. And so in titling this show, this podcast, I said I wanted it to be a little confusing. I wanted it to kind of joggle our brains and move things around and get us to look at something from a different angle, from a different perspective. And I have to take this time now, I feel I have to take this time now to articulate why I live my certain lifestyle, whether you could define that as sober or not, and why I titled this podcast Unsoberly Sober. I actually want to give a big shout out to a good friend, Kendra. She helped me come up with this title because we were talking about it, and I had people coming up to me, after reintroducing alcohol into my life, being successful in that, never reverting back to crazy party girl Maggie. I said, well, I don't really know what I am. I feel like I'm just a normal person who doesn't have a relationship with alcohol anymore. If I decide to have a glass of wine, I have a glass of wine and I move on with my life. I don't know how to define that. And my girl Kendra, she said, it's almost like you're unsoberly sober. And that idea just stuck with me. So I want to give her that love today for planting that seed, but then also giving myself permission to embrace this conundrum of kind of a state where nobody taught me that this was a potential. If you've ever struggled with alcohol, are you always going to struggle with alcohol? And the truth of the matter was that I was conditioned to believe that was true. So I want to kind of start off today just discussing the perception of the word sober in general. For some, it is a very empowering word. It's a word that personifies a healthy freedom from alcohol. It's something that they build into their self-identity as I am a strong person because I don't use alcohol. I am sober. I do not use any kind of substance to alter my cognitive state, to alter my consciousness. And I love that. I love that for those people, they can draw that connotation of the word sober. But for me, that's not how I viewed it. How I viewed sober was I want to drink more than anything else in this world, but I have to tell myself not to. And from that perspective, and I know that was a dangerous way to look at it, but from that perspective, sober just did not seem satisfying to me. Sober did not seem like a type of lifestyle that I wanted to live. I didn't want to live a life where every waking moment I was spending thinking about alcohol or forcing willpower to not drink alcohol. Something like, oh, I can never have that again. I can never be that fun person again that I used to be. And I think for a lot of people out there, that's the same connotation that they hold for sobriety. So they stop trying in general. They settle where they are with their drinking behavior, which typically, if not adjusted, spirals even more out of control if left avoiding or just ignoring those issues. They're so afraid of sobriety because they have that same connotation that I did. I'm always going to want alcohol, and being sober means basically sitting around all day telling myself not to drink. Well, I want to talk about how I was conditioned to believe that was true. And so I'm going to take you back. I've mentioned a lot about my mom, and that's where basically all of my ideas about sobriety, about recovery, about the systems, AA and the 12 steps, those were all conditioned into my mind through those childhood experiences. So I remember very distinctly situations in my 6th year on this earth, 7 years old, 8 years old, where my mom, my person that I was hardwired emotionally to, would get drunk. And then the next day she'd say, today I'm going to be sober. But goddamn, all I want to do is have a drink. To me, that meant sober meant not enjoying life. Because on the days that she was sober, where she was going to the AA meetings, where she was identifying as an addict, those were actually the days where I saw her in her deepest depression. Those were the days where she was in her mind. I can look back and I can sense this now. Those were the days where she was in her mind telling herself how much she did not deserve a quality life where she could have things to be excited about that were not alcohol related. I want you to imagine what it's like for a little girl to see her mom when she is drunk and out of body experience. It was like her soul had been pulled out of her body, and here she was like an alien in the room. I didn't know who that was. So obviously I didn't like the drunk version of her either. It scared the shit out of me. But the sober version of her was almost more bitter, was almost more angry, more anxiety ridden. And when she was sober, all she could think about was the next time she could drink, or how hard she had to work to not drink. And that terrified me as well. It terrified me to the point that when my own trauma, my own self-image, and my own value deteriorated to the point that I was using alcohol, the idea of going sober, that meant that I was going to be a bitter, depressed, lonely person that couldn't wait to take the next drink. What I decided on, and I shared this last episode, or actually first episode, what I decided on was, instead of chasing sobriety, because I had deemed sober as something that's defeated, something that's disempowering, something that's depressing and anger. Instead of chasing sobriety, what would be the opposite of drinking if you don't want to drink? It would be freedom. It would be waking up, having energy, having goals, having things to work on, where your quality of life increases. And so the drinking just doesn't sound good anymore. I think a lot of people are trapped in a low quality of life, but they are sober. So they're using that metric as, I am succeeding. I didn't drink today, but I didn't go after the job promotion because I'm so anxiety ridden about if I'm going to drink and ruin that opportunity. I didn't go after this new relationship, that person that I really want to connect with, that person that I feel energetically drawn towards. I didn't want to cultivate that relationship out of fear that they might find out that I have a problem with alcohol, or they might find out maybe one day I'm going to drink in front of them and they're not going to love me anymore. So what I saw was that sometimes people would go after sobriety, and then it was like a trick. It was like, okay, I'm sober, so life should be all rainbows and sunshine now. But the fact that they're still letting alcohol consume their mind because they think sobriety is the only goal in my life, they're not going after things that actually improve the quality of life. So what I started to think about was really like all of those individuals I met in AA rooms. I was 6, 7, 8 years old. And I would meet people that would come up and they would talk about, I've been sober for 20 years. I've got my coin. But yesterday I almost caved. Yesterday I almost had a drink, and I just have to push through one day at a time. And at that age, I couldn't articulate this, but at that age, I recognized if you're doing something for 20 years and it's not working, why are you still doing it that way? Why, after 20 years of not having a sip of alcohol, is your mind still drawn to alcohol? It's because you're holding on to this identity of being sober. Sober innately connects you to alcohol. And if you're saying, I have to be sober today, you're reminding yourself that you are the person that wants alcohol more than anything else. But what if, instead of saying, I'm going sober, you say, I'm going healthy. I'm going goal-oriented. I'm going high quality of life. How would you define those metrics? A lot of those people that I met in AA rooms, they had been sober for 20 years or 10 years or 5 years, and they got those coins, and I'm so excited for that aspect, but they were still working in jobs that they were settling for. They were still doing things day to day based off of, if I am an addict, this is all that I'm worthy of. And so everything in their life kept affirming that they have a problem with alcohol due to their own belief system of who they are. And that's just not what I wanted. I wanted to wake up and not think about alcohol. I wanted to make it through the whole week and have alcohol be the last thing that came to mind. I wanted to introduce myself to people and have those people have no idea about my drinking habits because they're more interested in my personality, what I'm doing with my life, what kind of work do I do, how do I make them feel as a person, because I have great communication skills. I wanted whether or not I drink alcohol to be the last thing somebody identified me as, because that's not how I identify myself. I don't identify myself as somebody who used to have a problem with alcohol. I identify myself as somebody who coped with alcohol for a long time. It was a helpful tool, whether you believe that or not. It got you to a certain point in life where you woke up and you said, that's not me anymore. That does not mean that you have to continue to identify as that coping mechanism for the entirety of your life. That's what we call a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you say every day, all I have to do today is be sober, your thoughts are going to be directly correlated to alcohol in some way, whether it's, I can't drink that, I shouldn't drink that, I wish I could drink that, I wish I could go have fun in that situation. And if you're thinking in those ways the entire time, then guess what you're not thinking about? You're not thinking about how much you love your children, how much you love your partner, how much you love yourself, how much you love your life, how much you could progress in work, how much you could progress in the gym, getting addicted to that progress with your own physique and seeing how much you do control your own reality, your own results in life, how much you have all of these different goals for yourself. Okay, would that be, I always go back to something career-oriented because we spend the majority of our adulthood in our careers. How could I improve that? If I hate my life, then maybe if I hate my job, then that would mean that that's why I'm trying to escape with alcohol. So there's all of these factors that if you're only focused on not drinking, you're not seeing the bigger picture of what's going into the life that you're building that's then creating the life that you want to escape. I will say, the further I get into my journey, the more I do find myself recalibrating that definition of sobriety. I've even introduced myself a few times recently, and I've let the word sober kind of roll off my tongue, and it felt good. And that to me means that I've experienced a life free of alcohol-obsessed thoughts to the point that now I can see sobriety as being something fun. It doesn't have to mean that it's connected to alcohol anymore. It could actually just mean I'm living my life in the absence of intoxication. I'm living my life to the fullest, to the point that there just isn't any room to think about alcohol. There isn't any emotional attachment. There's no romanticizing the drink, because now I romanticize my entire life in the absence of that alcohol, in the freedom from the alcohol obsession. So understand that words are just symbols. Words are just symbols that we invented to define different types of living. And we give certain connotation to these words based off of our own experiences, our own perceptions, and how we were introduced to those words. So my introduction to the word sober led way to me never wanting to be sober. I had to redefine that for myself. I had to say, okay, if I don't want to continue to relate every single thing about me or every single thing in my future to not drinking, being hungover, am I going to be able to hide my drinking in this event or this scenario? If I can actually move past that, and that's not what sobriety means, then what could it mean? Well, for me, it means that basically 365 days a year round, I'm just living my life. And if I think about alcohol, it's actually like, oof, that's going to cause me to feel stressed out. That's going to overwhelm me with stress because of the nature, anxiety, the nature of our hormonal imbalances after drinking. Alcohol, that's going to be a waste of my time on the weekend, because guess what? The weekend is also where I build my dreams. I work on my dreams during the week, but the weekend is my free time to go in and build them. So that would be a waste of time for me to go out and drink all weekend. Okay, well, what about the one Wednesday night where you could go out to dinner with your husband and split a bottle of wine? Well, for me, that means that come Thursday, I'm going to be depressed. I'm not going to have enthusiasm to show up for my work, for the service that I provide, the things that I'm super passionate about. So when I said I'm going to redefine sobriety, that means for me, I don't get blackout drunk. I may have one cocktail maybe once a quarter. Like I don't even count my days. I don't even mark on the calendar and oh, well, I'm back to day 0. It's more about, okay, what kind of life am I building? And if alcohol is involved, I have to remember that I am powerful over it. There is nothing outside of me that holds power over me. The old mantra of AA that I'm so accustomed to hearing is, once you have the drink takes you, or once I have the drink takes me. And I think that idea is what keeps people locked into defining themselves as an addict, needing to cling on to their sobriety by tooth and nail every single day, because they're living in fear that if they have one little temptation, one little slip up, and they let that alcohol pass their lips, well, then all of the sudden, back to rock bottom. But what if you didn't tell yourself that? What if you said, okay, by chance, if I happen to have a sip of alcohol, I know that I'm powerful over that. You actually get proactive against the relapse. You actually get proactive against the downward spiral. Because this is the thing, people that relapse, they take one drink after a year. They take 5 drinks after 10 years. The relapse is determined by your own defeated energy. I gave up my sober days. I had that one drink, and now I've been programmed to believe that once I have that one drink, I'm the type of person, I'm addicted. I have to keep going. And that perpetuates the relapse, the dwelling on the missing of the days. I had 100 days under my belt. I had 1,000 days under my belt. And now I'm starting back from 0. That's not a very good outlook to have. If you're just measuring your sobriety by the metrics of days, that doesn't say anything about your quality of life. And then if you break that stint of days, now you have to give your coin back. You have to start back from zero. And guess what energy that leaves you with? I'm a failure. I'm a fuck up. Here I am again. What's the point of trying? I saw that almost, I would say, once a month with my mom, where she would try, she would go, she'd get a few days, and then the days were out because she had a sip and she believed that she had to keep going because that's what traditional recovery taught her about addiction. And it's just not true. So when you're defining yourself by your days and your metrics like that, it's completely disempowering. And then on top of that, with the energy of I had this drink, once I have the drink, it takes me. If you were to believe that you were the type of person that could have a sip of alcohol or have one drink and then move on with your life, that's not to give yourself a permission to slip to have a drink every day, but it's a permission slip to not beat yourself up into submission just because you made a decision to have a drink of alcohol. That's called a lapse in sobriety versus a relapse. So a lapse in sobriety, sometimes planned, sometimes unplanned. It means that you have a drink, but you don't go out of control. You don't actually spiral into the state that is the same or even worse than you were before your sobriety experimentation, your sobriety season, however long you had made it. So when you actually say, I can be in control if I have that drink, you stop that downward spiral. You stop the lapse from becoming the relapse. And for me, I have lapses in my sobriety. Like I said, I can have a sip of my husband's old fashioned at a wedding. I can have a glass of champagne. I can give myself that permission to have a cocktail, but then guess what I'm thinking about so that I don't go overboard? I think, well, if I have any more, I'm going to be really tired. It's going to mess up my sleep. So you have to fall in love with your sleep. We've already iterated this in the past episodes. So I think about the sacrifice that I'm taking with my sleep. And then I think about, okay, what's my mood going to be like tomorrow? I've been so energized. I've been so enthusiastic leading up to this. If I have another drink, then I'm not going to feel good. I'm going to feel depressed about a whole lot of nothing for no reason tomorrow because of the hangxiety, the nature of alcohol. And then I think about, okay, well, if I have a drink, when's the next time I'm going to work out? I'm probably going to feel like crap. If I keep drinking, then I'm going to feel like crap. This is coming from a place of growth motivation versus what's known as deficiency motivation. If I have that drink, the drink's going to take me. I have to be sober. I have to be 100% sober all the time. Don't set other goals. I have to come from this place where I'm thinking about the shame, the guilt, and that's what's motivating me not to be that person. But that's always going to weaken you. When you think from a disempowered state of deficiency motivation, it will always weaken you. Whereas the other end of the spectrum, the growth motivation, I don't want to have this drink today. I don't want to drink in general, or maybe I don't want to have a second drink if you decide to have the first, because look at how I'm growing into my goals. Look at how my energy is growing. Look how enthusiastic I am for the small joys in life, like showing up and recording a podcast, like showing up to your breakfast table with your family and enjoying a nice quality breakfast time before you guys set out on your day. Imagine that compared to mornings of hangover, shame, guilt, and remorse. So if you can motivate yourself by imagining who you are running to become versus who you are running away from being, that's a different dynamic. That's a different energy level. You say, oh my gosh, I'm so excited to be this person that I don't want that drink. I don't want that second drink. And you stop yourself from getting out of control. Whereas I don't want to drink because look at who I was in the past. And I know that's still me. That's still who I am. And I just can't keep living as this sucky person who always fails and always so undisciplined. And you're basically shitting on yourself all day long and then wondering why you need to escape your own mind. That's deficiency motivation. And that's what I saw play out for my mom up until the day she passed away in 2022. She was not sober. There was probably, I would say no more than a string of 7 days that I saw her sober from the time I was 5 until the time I was 28 years old. There was no sense of her own power, her own confidence. Who did she want to become? She was never thinking about the person that she was running towards becoming. She couldn't see that. She couldn't give herself that permission because she was so conditioned to only give power to the image of the person she was running away from, who was her. It was her past behavior. It was her trauma. It was all of the things and the failures that she would ruminate over. Again, going back to one of the concepts from our previous episode, our present actions dictate our future results. Our present results are the product of past thinking. And all my mom could think about, and even in my era, 15 years of being a drunk, hot mess, towing the line of mental and physical dependency on alcohol, I was always thinking about who I was running away from, always thinking about what I had messed up, always thinking about the shame, the guilt, the remorse that I had. And that left me too weak to think about anything else. And then I started to paint the picture of who I wanted to become. And does that include the word sobriety? Now I would say, yeah. But in the beginning, when I first, early 2020 into 2021, I was like, I don't want to define myself as that because that means that I still want alcohol, right? If I'm saying I'm sober, that means I still love alcohol. That doesn't have to be the case. You can be a sober person who does not think about alcohol. And I know that now because there are plenty of successful people out there that don't identify as sober, but they don't drink. Because they see, okay, alcohol, it impacts my mindset. It impacts how I show up for myself. I don't have time for it because I'm working on my dreams. I'm working on my goals. I have a future vision that I am bringing into my reality. And for most people locked in addiction, they don't believe that they are worthy of that. And I know this as a fact because I lived it for myself. I saw it with my mom, but I also have conversations with these people, typically on the interwebs, usually through the comments section, especially my YouTube channel. And I hear this attitude conveyed of, easy for you to talk about future goals when you haven't lived the pain and the trauma of addiction. And I'm like, okay, buckle up. Let's talk about that because yes, I have. And I know it to be true that you can create a new vision for yourself and your history does not dictate your future unless you say it does. The fact that you're saying that you can never have a good life or you could never have a sip of alcohol. I'm not saying that people who are happy sober should have a sip of alcohol. But I'm saying if you're living on the edge of, I need to have it and I can't possibly think of a way around my life without it, have a drink. Does it fix things? You'll probably learn it doesn't. And then you're just going to move on with your life if you don't let it spiral into a relapse. But I have all these conversations with people that have this solid conclusion that their life will not amount to anything because they are addicted to alcohol. Even their perception of being addicted to alcohol, that's an attitude. If you haven't had alcohol in years, stop identifying as an addict. Stop telling yourself that all you need to do today is go sober. All you need to do today is to push through without a drink. Actually, what you need to do today is take care of your body. Read some books. Do some chit-chatting with your loved ones. And when you're so focused on just being sober, you miss out on those things that actually build the quality of life so that then you don't want to drink. So that then you're like, okay, I actually had a dang good day. Drinking would actually drop me down and make me sad and stressed, and I would actually not feel very good about myself. So I don't want that because now I've got all these good things happening. And I'll reiterate something that I found so mind-boggling back in the day was these sober sponsors telling my mom, don't set any other goals other than sobriety. Now I know that that was the catastrophizing aspect of her journey. She didn't have any other goals of who she should become, who she could become, who she was capable of being, because all she could see was, I'm meant to just make it through the day without a drink. And how disempowering is that? And I guess today I'm giving her a little nod up to heaven. I'm saying, as much as I do use her as some of the worst case scenario examples, I've really worked to have a lot of compassion for everything that she went through, because she was just hurting. She was using alcohol to cope with that pain. And she was a product of the conditioning of traditional sobriety, traditional AA and 12 steps programs. So that's why I am so driven with my mission. And sometimes I come here and I have my words all jumbled and I have my thoughts all scattered, because I've had these thoughts and these ideas brewing inside me since I was 5 and 6 years old, when my mom started drinking. And I started to see the issue with it. I had a pure mind, unconditioned, and I saw it through objective lenses, what was going wrong. And then, what do you know? When then I started drinking, all I knew was what AA taught me. So I started to succumb to that as well. And I guess what I'm trying to say is that this show is about redefining that for you. So does that mean that you have to call yourself sober? Remember in the positive and negative lens statement sheet, I said, I don't even use positive affirmations, positive phrasings that include the word sober. I use words like free, because I'm free from the chains that used to exist between me and alcohol. They used to bind us together, but now I'm free. So that word to me represents sobriety. Alcohol freedom. I use that term a lot. I use the word healthy. I use the word honest, dependable. All of these words are my identity now, and they have nothing to do with alcohol. But if somebody had to ask me, what is your relationship with alcohol? I'm kind of like, well, it's irrelevant. I don't plan to drink. I don't sit around thinking about it. I don't sit around and recover from it. I don't make decisions based on if there's alcohol available or if there's alcohol there that I need to fear being around. That was another thing with sobriety. My fear was like, I'm going to have to really manipulate all of the experiences that I get involved in, because if I'm around alcohol, I'm going to cave to it. And that was my perception of being sober. Because I watched my mom. My mom left her own son's wedding because there was alcohol there and she was afraid to cave in. I was in 7th grade and I said, wow, I never want that for myself. I want to be able to be in places. If there's alcohol present, I'm still focused on what's going on with the people, the place, the food, the conversation, the energy, the love. So all in all, I want you to feel the freedom to redefine what alcohol freedom looks like. I'm not even going to say the word sober. What does alcohol freedom look like for you? What kinds of words can you use to really build this new identity where alcohol is irrelevant? You just stop giving it power. You neither love it nor fear it. If you love something or you fear it, you're still giving it power and you're attracting it to you. So what you have to do is just relieve yourself of that chain that binds you together. So for the exercise this week, I want you to do exactly that. I want you to allow your imagination to run wild in the correct direction. We're going to talk about the power of imagination on another episode, but the truth, when I look back, the truth about my unsuccessful ventures in sobriety for the 15 years where I would try here and there, and then the successful venture finally come 2020. The truth is that for the 15 years where I tried, was imagining life without alcohol in the worst possible way. We as humans, we are always using our imagination. You might not think you do, but you are. You imagine what the future holds for you. And if you don't have anything to base it off of other than history, You're going to project your memories into your imagined future. So what does that look like? For me, I imagined that sobriety meant I was going to sit on the couch every Friday and Saturday night watching Titanic, eating Ben and Jerry's and crying into my pint of ice cream because, oh, my friends wouldn't love me. Oh, nobody would want to hang out with me. Oh, I'm going to be so lame and boring. That's what sobriety for me looked like because I let my imagination go there for so long. Then I crafted the opposite. I crafted the opposite image. And I think about this as like a mental exercise. You have to direct your imagination in the right way, or else it will only paint pictures of fear, anxiety, self-doubt, worry, what you don't want. So this week, I want you every morning, wake up, as you're still a little bit groggy, your eyes are just opening, you're just starting your day, imagine what you do want. Imagine how you want sobriety to look, how alcohol freedom looks. That's not sitting on the couch and eating ice cream unless you allow that to be your reality. If you expect that, that's going to happen. But what if you imagined, texting your group of friends and your friends actually being like, you know what? I've been wanting to take a break from drinking too. Let's go to yoga this weekend. Let's go have coffee for brunch. Let's go to the library. I know that sounds silly to the mentally dependent person, on alcohol, but it's not silly when you start to let your imagination go there and say, what do I want from sobriety versus what do I not want? Then you're going to shift the way you feel about it. You're going to feel more enthused. You're going to feel more motivated and inspired. And you're also going to feel more confident in your decision because you can see in your future how things could play out well. You're going to feel more confident, and where that boosts your experience is, okay, it doesn't matter what other people think about me because I'm confident in my own decision to not drink. I'm confident in my own decision to sit out of the debauchery every weekend and actually focus on myself. So that confidence starts to move in as you imagine the best for yourself, because confidence is on the same wavelength, the same frequency as those positive images that you see. Whereas what's the opposite of confidence? Insecurity. And you're insecure if you are imagining people disliking you. You are imagining losing all your friends. You're imagining that your life is boring and dull. Of course, you're going to feel insecure if you're dwelling in that place. So the exercise this week is imagine what you do want from sobriety, alcohol freedom, whatever you want to deem it. Maybe even add an extra echelon here and say, what's the word? Decide on the word you are going to use individually to redefine sobriety. Again, mine was always fit, free, healthy, those types of words, but you get to define that for yourself and think further into what metrics will you measure the success of your sobriety? Because like I said, traditional sobriety really only measures based off days, but that doesn't mean that those people are going out and increasing the quality of life. Doesn't mean that they're, going after the job that they want. They're going after the new career that they want. They're going after, healing, trauma healing, going to therapy, things like that. So what types of metrics would you define as successful in your sobriety? Get to work on those, and then I'd love to hear your feedback. Keep me posted. As always, drop comments, email me, get a hold of me, because I want to be a part of your journey to becoming unsoberly sober, to becoming alcohol free, to becoming the type of person where when people meet you, they don't even know whether or not you drink because you're so interesting in so many other ways that you don't even identify as the fact that you used to be an alcoholic, or you used to have problems drinking, or you used to love blacking out every Saturday. That's a thing of the past, and people don't even identify you as that because you do not identify you as that. So keep me posted. This is a journey worth taking, imagining the best in life. Remember, as we're closing out, you get to choose your thoughts. And by thinking differently, you will drink differently, because it all goes down in the mind. Until next time, I'm Magnify Maggie, signing out. It means the entire world to me that you have been here with me, letting me share my experiences and hopefully helping open your eyes to a bright, beautiful life ahead of you as well. So if you are loving this show, please, please, please subscribe, like, comment, and especially share this with somebody that might be in need. Please help get the word out. Word of mouth is so important. And I know that you're somebody special who can help me in this mission for thinking differently in order to drink differently or never again. Make sure you reach out if you have any questions you want discussed on the podcast. I'm here for it. So I'll talk to you soon. Signing out, Magnify Maggie.